let me ask you that. Let me
Yes.
put the question in a different way. The question really is that Labour has failed to stop the the things that it should have stopped, such as the increase in fuel subsidy. So it's now latching on wage review just to redeem its
No,
image.
I do not think Labour failed to stop um, fuel subsidy removal. I want to tell you this, but for organized labor, I repeat, that Labour did not fail in its bid to stop the removal of subsidy. No. But for organized labor, you probably would have been paying 3,000 to 4,000 per liter of petrol. That was the destination. Do you understand? So that we didn't exactly bring back rates.
Yeah, I understand, but still, Comrade
Yes, sir.
Benson Upah, the complaint on the street is that the Nigerian Labour Congress is so silent about so many national issues that it seems as if it does not exist.
Well, those who hold that opinion, I would say, are ungracious and ungrateful, and hold themselves above and beyond their own national problems. The economic issues that have arisen across the continents, particularly Africa and Europe, and the consequential protests that greeted them, those protests were not led by the unions, even in Kenya here, in Ghana here, in London, in Berlin, in Washington. Those protests were led by aggrieved citizens. But here in Nigeria, we have a situation whereby when the unions say, let us protest peacefully, the same people who ordinarily all they need to do is simply comply with simple instructions, stay at home. Those are the very people who will violate this simple instruction. When the telecom tariffs were jacked up, we said, do not make calls between 11 and 2 p.m. Stop buying data. And quite a number of Nigerians did not comply with this simple instruction. Product service boycott is a legitimate way of protest anywhere in the world. And we say, don't do this. And they did that with their eyes wide open. And then the same people will sit in the comfort of their homes or offices and point their dirty fingers at us and say, we have not done anything. Now, the space is open. The right that is available to the trade unions, to the trade union leaders, etc., that right is available to each and every one of us, to each institution, to each individual, to each organization. The right to peaceful protest, the right to say no, the right to peaceful assembly, and all of that. It is not an exclusive preserve of the Nigerian Labour Congress. There is nowhere it is stated. Of course, you are a former lawmaker. There is nowhere it is stated that it is only the Nigerian Labour Congress or the Trade Union Congress that can protest on behalf of other aggrieved Nigerians. So, and my last word on that is that since they are not satisfied, we are stepping aside. We want to see their show.
Well, it will be like you are blaming the public for your inability to
I
mobilize
am
them.
not blaming the public. I'm just giving you instances. We cannot force anybody to the street. Do you understand? We cannot force anybody to comply with a simple, persuasive instruction. It is not only us who feel the pinch of the fundamental or fundamentalist market policies of this administration. It's not only us. Okay? So we are all in this boat together. And common sense dictates that once a set of people or once a credible organization is ready to provide leadership, all they need to do is join the queue. And that is just from that. On the side of the government, we have a situation whereby government deploys its institutions, the courts, the security agencies, to abort, frustrate our protests. You know of the court injunctions. You know of the attempt by the AG to convert an interim injunction to a perpetual injunction. So we fight on all sides, okay? So what we have noticed this past 2 years, let me tell you, is a case of hybrid war. Government didn't stop at that. Government physically, violently, government agents assaulted, brutalized, humiliated, and attempted to break the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress. In another instance, they threw charges of cybercrime, treason, and all the most dangerous crimes known to our law. So, in such a situation, what we expected from the general public is an orchestra. By orchestra, I mean a tumultuous turnout. Say, look, government, you've gone beyond your brief. That cannot happen. Because once government is able to break NLC or the trade unions, I tell you, there will be no roadblock for it anywhere. We're the last legitimate army standing, even as some Nigerians can be as ungracious as you have sounded, that you have not done anything. Let them come and do their own. We're waiting for them to see their show. And they should be ashamed, for that level of ingratitude.
Yeah, before you go, I still have one or two questions to ask. Comrade Benson Upah. The fact of the matter, also, the question will be that why will it be that in other African countries, people accept to go out to protest for their rights, and in Nigeria, people are not ready to? Can you explain that?
I can explain that. And I'm going to refer you to Fela's song. Tears, blood, and sorrow. Or is this sorrow, tears, blood, and whatever? I want you to go and listen to the song. That every Nigerian thinks, that every average Nigerian thinks, oh, I get mama, I never marry yet. I get papa, I never finish school. I never did that. So it is a sheepish culture, okay? Now, Nigerians are robust outside the shores of this country. In fact, in Europe, in US, when you say a Nigerian coming, you don't need to be told that is a Nigerian coming. But back at home, all we do, or all that most of us do, is simply gas. Okay? And Gakpandi reduced that to what you call the dilemma of the African elite. Gakpandi is an East African author and elite, is an East African author and an intellectual. So our problem largely is an elite thing. That I let the other person do it, and the other person stays in his own house and say, I let Mr. B do it, and that person stays in her house and say, let the other person do it. So it does not help us. I think part of this problem is our socio-political evolution as a nation, that we didn't have, that beyond what the trade unions did in pre-colonial Nigeria, that there was no formal protest culture against colonial rule. And when after independence, that culture of lethargy continued. So outside the trade unions, it's difficult to have a sustainable protest. That has been the case. So you will need
So that is a gloomy. That appears to be a very gloomy picture you are painting. It means that we're in for a long run in this mess.
Absolutely, except we change. See, Honorable, I tell you this. At joints, at meetings, Nigerians will vibrate, talk. Let them leave that place. That is the end of that matter. But we should also give credit to some of our younger ones these days who have attempted their hands at protest culture. And the response of the state has been decidedly brutish or brutal. The state is not keen to engage in dialogue. All it wants is the graveyard of the silence of the graveyard, which is not good. So when people, so we of necessity have to collectively engage the state and remind this government, particularly the president himself, that he should not forget his past. He comes from the culture of protest. Now, he's on the saddle. He cannot shut us up. He should not shut the young ones up, cannot shut them down. So the young ones who are trying to change this culture of protest should be encouraged to continue. If possible, they should be guided to try to make it violent-free, but not to say you cannot protest and you clamp them into prison, throw all manner of charges at them. No. So the summary is that organized labor is the only pan-Nigerian organization, the only credible, the biggest one that has remained standing, and we say we will protest tomorrow, and they will protest in spite of everything, in spite of tear gas, in spite of arrests, in spite of charges, in spite of threats and intimidation. It will go ahead and protest. So I think we are deserving of some level of credit and appreciation for this. If you know what we face, the position we face from.
Just
Yes.
let me have your final word on this question. Now, you said the president was was a protester before, a member of groups that were
Absolutely.
protesting before. History does appear to show that many people actually envy the people that they are opposed to. So when they have the opportunity to ascend to power, they become more brutal than the people they wanted to overthrow. And this appears in so much of our history. Should we be afraid that should any one of you now who is a comrade come to power, he will be as brutal as as history has shown that people who are engaged in protests are usually more brutal in power?
I can only speak for myself, Benson Upah, when I come to power. I can't speak for others. That is a personal question. But generally, I want to tell you, using examples, we have Lula in Brazil. Lula, in his first term, raised over 50 million Brazilians from poverty. He did so much. His successor threw him into prison. They threw all manner of charges at him. He came out of prison and is presently the president of Brazil, and he's doing wonders. He's a comrade. He has not changed. Okay? And I will also give you the example of Chiluba. Chiluba, as president of Zambia, did his bit. Of course, like all humans, he had his frailties. Back home, we have had an Adams as the governor of Edo State. And as governor of Edo State, Adams did very, very well. Of course, like all humans, he also had his own shortcomings, but his good comings clearly overwhelm whatever anybody might say negatively about him. He paid better wages and timely to build infrastructure. And now we presently have a comrade as governor of Kebbi State, Dr. Nasir Idris, who is doing beautifully well. In fact, paying far and above, the prescribed national wage, and then doing incredibly well on the side of infrastructure, extending his humanitarian gestures across the borders of the state. So I think this matter lies in the stars of every individual. It cannot be that because somebody who was a critic is in power and is wielding the big stick, forgetting his own history. That does not mean when others get to power, other comrades get to power, they will forget their past.
Well, in the last few minutes, we'll be speaking to Benson Upah, a journalist, former legislative staff, and now working at the Nigerian Labour Congress. Thank you very much for speaking to us. We'll speak another time.